New digital technologies are driving a step change in enterprise business transformation. At the Digital Twin Podcast, we explore the intersection of technology and business. What should your digital twin look like?
Hi, welcome to the Digital Twin Podcast. Your host, Omar and Hari. Today's topic is going to be one of our favorites. It's really why should we digitally transform, really going into the benefits of digital transformation. With that, I bring Hari back in. This is one of our topics, Hari, that we really like to kind of really
It is.
expound upon why do we actually do this, right?
Very fundamental question. Why transform and why digitally transform?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different reasons to do that. A lot of different organizations are looking at different things and why they should be doing it. As you can see, we opened up one of our little mind maps where we kind of organize our thoughts so that you guys can have somewhat of a visual of what we're talking about. But there are a few things, but the obvious ones are close to things around how can we impact the revenue, how can we become more cost effective, are there things that we don't know that are happening in an organization from an operational point of view, improvements that we can make, and a variety of things. But I think we could start with the big question around how are we really using digital transformation to transform our customers experience, right, Hari? I mean,
Yeah,
I think at the end of the day, that really kind of all drills down to how do we improve that, or how do we enhance that?
I think we talked about this. I think revenue impact as well as cost impact, both of them listed there. Those are important points. But the foundation of a business, of an enterprise, really relies on customers and their own people. So I think probably best to start there. Most every organization has a well robust base of customers, but the question is, through new digital technologies, can you get closer to them? Can you be more intimate with them? Can you know them better? Can you have their pulse? Whether you have a new product or existing product line, how do you know? How do you read those customers, and do digital offer a new and better way to do that? Are we, as a business, providing the right type of services and products? Is there a way to change and not just a continuous improvement, but a step change in improvement, revamping how you offer those products and services, and how do you improve? How do you improve your adoption? Because ultimately, the revenue growth is going to rely on your customer growth. How do you improve that, and can you do that with digital?
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. I think we do it today. Organizations do it today with understanding their needs, their pains, and really developing products and services that they ultimately buy. But how do you close that loop with that satisfaction and then tie that back into your overall product development and customer experience, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, right? How do you digitally make that seamless where the iterative process is getting better just in general without going through different surveys, manual discussions? How can we find out better insights with digital technologies, right? So
Yeah.
that's the key, right? There's a few areas there that are really transforming the arenas in different spaces. So I think that's a really key component there. But if we start looking at that and trying to really dissect people, right? When we talk about the people component of this, we talk about how it benefits people. When we look at the organization, does the organization have more information, or do they have, you know, key drivers that drive the organization, right? From a KPI perspective, usually it's one group of people that understands what they are, but can you drill those down
Mm-hmm.
to individual roles and people to actually understand their day-to-day jobs and what they're supposed to be doing and how effective they are, and almost a digital scorecard or tracking mechanism that can get
Yeah.
them to do the behaviors that you want, right? I mean, that's kind of some of the neat things that are happening around that space,
And,
right?
and also
So,
with people, most digital technologies are fundamentally changing how they do their work. And what that means is uh, they're drastically, either improving how well they do their job or changing how they do their job. Whether you go from something very simple as paper to digital, it's not what I'm trying to say is it's not just an incremental change in, hey, a better software that you start to use. We're talking about digital transformation that is truly transforming the way you work, the way you do your job. And a lot of the times, digital tools allow you, and like you said, from a data perspective, more transparency, more information, ability to act quickly, act decisively. You can also better understand the context around the decision making process. You're not siloed to a certain type of data. You now have a much broader view to that data. So there's, from a people perspective, the changes that digital transformation is seeking is massive.
Yeah. I mean, you're really changing the whole mindset of roles and responsibilities if you think
And
about it.
culture is a big word for us, and it's a big topic for us, and I think it, while we're not going to get into that in this session, that cultural change is kind of intrinsically tied to the digital transformation, and it's tied to it's tied at the hips. One drives the other, right?
Yeah, and you start looking at that culture change from, the status quo, the way we used to do things, to how do we become more of a digital, a data-driven company, right?
Yeah.
Data-driven culture is what we hear out in the in the environment that's out, that's actually going through. So when we talk about data-driven insights, what are we
Mhm.
really thinking about? That's one component in this that I think is unique, right? And what we really mean by this is how do you take data that is somewhat not clearly visible and make some insights to help you make decisions affecting your organization in a very high confidence way, right?
Mhm.
Typically, you would have executives or people kind of, gathering reports and understanding what's going on and then making the best decision with, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day old data. But how can
Yeah.
you actually create an environment where data is coming in rapidly? The
Real time.
velocity and the volume is coming in almost in real time, near real time, affecting the decision making,
Yep.
right? Pulling you to better decisions in a much quicker, time frame. I
At a
think
higher
that's a very,
confidence.
yeah, it's a very big piece on how you're going to be able to compete moving forward in the new
Mhm.
age of the digital transformation world.
Yeah. And
So,
also data can be misleading. So learning to work with data, learning to work with insights is a cultural shift, right? Knowing the context of the data is, are you looking at the wrong type of correlation, right? Are you looking at the wrong type of data in a wrong context? That means that leads you to the wrong path. So it is an iterative process of really kind of learning to work with data, learning to make your decisions on data. Of course, there's other pieces that come into play, but really data has to mostly drive your decisions, right?
yeah, I think that's kind of the standard that most organizations are trying to strive to. It's organizing that, right? How do we figure out where we start? How do we organize this? And how do we really make value of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you see some of our previous uh, sessions, our podcasts, we go into some details on where some of those examples might be. But really, this this agility, we talk about agility, and maybe even from a business model change, they kind of correlate and interlink with innovation as well. These are all kind of starting to kind of blur the lines of the benefits here. But if you can actually be agile enough of a business to be innovative quickly to change your business model, going after new customers, markets, or even different segments, introducing new products and things that are kind of coming in and what you're seeing,
Yep.
provides a drastic different model
Yep.
on how you operate, right? How you innovate, your traditional R&Ds, your agility methods, you know, you're always targeting certain markets, but you could open up different verticals, create revenue impact fast
Or
with
even
data.
disrupt yourself.
Absolutely.
Netflix reminds me of that, right? I mean, while they had a CD mailing business, right? Um, they chose to disrupt themselves and go with a different model to continue to push and drive towards a digital delivery model, kind of essentially eating up their own mail order business. So you have to be constantly looking for ways to disrupt yourself, disrupt the market, disrupt business models that you're currently in. And that comes from, like you said, it could be data driven insights, it could be that innovative agile way of thinking. But in some ways, one of the things that we pointed out there is the revenue impact. So one of the ways you would impact that top line revenue could be by creating new models, by
Exactly. I
creating new
mean,
businesses.
well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to create new revenue streams, whether it's going after different verticals through products or actually getting more pull through from what you have. But, how do you get more product pull through without that, as we mentioned in the very beginning, tying this back to the customer experience and tying that loop and the satisfaction and understanding how the products are actually affecting their overall transformation or their business as well, right? So, having better visibility, better understanding of how you're affecting the everyday life of your customer can really bring that whole chain.
Absolutely.
Uh, Absolutely, right? So, and I think we can go into kind of the last two areas, transparency and collaboration, because I think that kind of ties into a little bit of the people aspect, but also the culture and the organization in general. Collaboration becomes a big deal, right? I mean, when you start looking at, the data that's available, the knowledge that everyone is sharing across the organization, it's all there. Everyone is looking at the same data, the same information that's coming through the transom, and they're able to say, how can I affect this organization in a great way? One of the biggest challenges is a lot of people have great ideas, but they don't have all the information or key information to be able to understand if these ideas will work well in the organization or with the overall business in general. How do you increase that ideation, collaboration, and really bring your organization to become one versus siloed in many? So,
Yeah, and a lot of the times those silos are created by systems,
correct.
and sometimes it's cultural. But by bringing the data together, many teams are looking the same set of data for the decision making, and they all know why they're rowing in the same direction. And in general, we've talked about this before. We are driven to more collaboration through technology as well, whether that's from a mobility standpoint, whether it's the new generation that is consuming data in a different way. There is a natural push towards collaboration, singular sort of central, you know, truth where that data is considered true, as well as a common kind of platform where they can make decisions from. A couple of things that we have it up on the screen, but we didn't really talk about is the revenue and the cost impact, right? This is something that everybody talks about, which is probably one of the reasons why we didn't really push, or talk about it in the beginning. But I think it's worth mentioning the cost side of it. A lot of the times when digital transformation efforts are being implemented, they're looking for what sort of impact they can do to the bottom line, whether it's improving predictability of an event when it comes to maintenance or downtime, or being able to save 2%, 5% from an energy perspective. Those are like bottom line savings that could make a big difference for a business.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to running a train station or an operations air traffic controller. You're trying to get as much information as you can to be able to coordinate everything in the right way at the best optimal and efficient way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once you start understanding that, then you can start, becoming more efficient, understanding where there's room for improvement, and ultimately see where the opportunity takes you because you're going to open up more, you know, different types of innovation that can drive more revenue impact, but also since you're saving, how do you invest that back into your overall organization? So a lot of things that are possible with digital transformation, but the benefits, which we didn't really talk about too much, the tangible versus the non-tangible, which we kind of went through a little bit in the revenue and cost, which are more on the tangible side, but the non-tangible, the other ones that we discussed briefly, that can really ignite the organization to become a better self.
It may
So
be worth summarizing this quickly for those that are not able to see the screen, for those that are on our podcast, right? So
yeah,
the things that we talked about today, primarily around transforming customer experience, impacting people positively as there is significant change in how they work, uh, positive impact from a revenue perspective, improving the cost structure of the business, making operational improvements, improving your data driven decision making capability, and which is cultural within the organization, improving the ability to innovate by being agile and potentially changing the business models, or innovating or disrupting your own business model, going after new customers and new markets, and so on. And then we also talked about increased transparency from a data perspective, and improving collaboration with people within the organization and with customers.
there. I think once we really look at all these different areas, there's a lot of different benefits that are inside these individual buckets. Stay tuned for deeper dives into each one of these areas as we start bringing out more of the content around each specific benefit in the future. So again, thank you all for joining. Hari and Omar signing off.